What makes God creative? What makes him the ultimate creator? And how can we view his work as artistic? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go to the beginning, going to Genesis. All right, so I got my study Bible out here. Got my notes from what I've been working on. Fall season is amazing, but there's leaves everywhere and it's a little chilly. So we're looking at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Full stop. That's it. All right, we can go home now. That's all you need to know. God created the heavens and the earth. That's it. I'm kidding. So the Amplified version says, "In the beginning, God, Elohim, created by forming from nothing the heavens and the earth." So we see here that God is the first instance of creator, forming something into existence. Now, God being who he is, it wasn't by his hands, but he spoke it. His words, his voice had the power to speak things into existence that have never existed before. Things never before constructed. All right, so now we're going to jump all the way to verse 27. So chapter 1, verse 27. It says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." So God desired to create man in his own likeness. As you know, man wasn't God's first creation, of course, but he was man. He was God's most important creation. He had a greater desire for man, having made him in his own image, over any other creature, over any other being on earth. In fact, he loved us so much, being like him, and he desired us to share his likeness, that he gave man dominion over everything else on the earth. Going back to verse 26, as God shares his intentions for us when he created Adam and Eve, it was dominion. So going back to verse 26, it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.'" So that was God's intention when he desired to make man. He wanted to give man dominion over the earth, as in a similar way that God had dominion over the heavens. And in verse 28, God shares his desire after Adam and Eve had been created, and that is to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Here's where it gets good. So far, it's been getting good, but here's where it gets really good. So look at verse 31. So verse 31 says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day." So that one little chunk, it was very good. Let's focus on that. So the Amplified version will say, "And behold, it was very good, and he validated it completely." So God, seeing his creation and saw it was good, he validated it. Again, as we understand, his word, his voice speaks power. His voice has the power to speak things into existence. When he spoke his creations into existence, he validated it as being good. So here are the 4 things that I've learned diving into the scripture. Number 1, God is the example of creator creating. So we as creatives, we don't really have to look anywhere else. So we tend to find idols and find people within this world, within this realm, to sort of glean after. But the Lord has already provided an example. He became an example at the very beginning, from the get-go. As we seek a better understanding of what it is to be a creative, what it is to create more like God, we look towards God, look at his word to see how he created. Number 2, God has a love for his creations. So he didn't create just for the sake of creating. He created with a sort of passion. with a love and a desire and a purpose. So when we think about the different works that we create, there has to be a level of passion, a love, and a desire for that thing, because it is that love that we can pour into that creative process. As creatives, it's easy for us to be consumed in the end result and forget the process, forget to enjoy the process, where the journey is majority of that process. The end result is only a small fraction. The time it takes to develop something, to build something, create something out of nothing, that should be an enjoyable experience. And the Lord, having that love for his creations, he had that time to enjoy that process. Number 3, God validated his creations. So just like we saw in verse 31, where he saw it was very good, he validated it. This is important in 2 different ways. For one, being his creation, how good does it feel to know that God sees you, has validated you? He sees each and every one of his creations, every single one of you, and he says it was very good. He did not make you by accident. You were born and brought here during this time, at this particular moment in time, on purpose. So just as a note to yourself, you may want to write this down, but whenever you feel less than, whenever you feel like valuing yourself less, go back to verse 31, Genesis 1:31. God saw all of his creations, everything that he made, and saw that it was very good. His creations, what he brought into this world, has been validated by his word, by his voice, which we have already established has the power to establish. The other aspect of that, the other important part from that validation, as we glean from him, understand how we as creatives can operate, we have to be in the habit of validating our works. We can't see the works that we create and think that it's nothing, it's garbage, it's trash. Even the things that we use as practice to get to the next level, all of those works, all of those results, those creations, whatever art project you're working on, whatever business project, whatever it is that is part of the process, all of that is valid. All of it is validated. And anytime you have failed, it is still validated, because, and this is a whole different topic, but looking at a failure, it's only really a failure if you don't learn from it. It's only a failure if you decide to quit. But to see a failure and take it as a learning moment, a learning experience, to see how I can improve, how we can be better moving forward, that all that is just part of the process. It is just as valid as the rest of the process. It is just as valid as that end result, the successful moment. And number 4, God had intent for his creations. Have you ever made something, built something, developed something, and didn't know what you were doing with it? You made it, and it's kind of just sitting there. You kind of put it on the shelf because you have no idea what you're doing with it. God did not operate that way. He does not operate that way. As you said before, with his love for his creations, he had intent and purpose. So when we saw Adam and Eve as they were being created, prior to the fall of man, he had intent for them to have dominion over the earth realm. He had purpose for them to be fruitful and multiply, to cover the earth and subdue it. So again, sort of twofold purpose here for you to understand how God uses us. There is purpose. He has purpose for us. So in that vein, we have to understand what his purpose is for us individually. The other aspect, the other important part, we must find purpose for the things that we create. I have spent way too much time in my life over the past 12 years making things without purpose, making things that weren't going to amount to anything, things that really didn't even build towards the goals that I eventually had in life. I spoke previously about how I used to create more so for the devil as kind of a sort of summary, but I spent too much time creating for the wrong reasons, doing things for the wrong reasons, doing things without purpose and intent. And so now, every single thing that I do is done with intent, with purpose, for the glory of God, to elevate His kingdom in this earth realm, to inspire people like you to create for His kingdom. That is my purpose. That is why I'm here. So just like God had intent and purpose for us when He created us, we must have intent and purpose for the things that we create, the things that we invest our time, our money, our talents and treasures into. There must be intent and purpose. Now, if you want to know more about how we as creatives can be more like God, click on this video. It'll be up here next week, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I want to hear from you. What is it that you gleaned from this scripture? From Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, verse 27, verse 31. What did you get from this? I want to hear from you. Drop that in the comments. In the meantime, I'll catch you in the next video. Deuces.